welcome to this recording of Israel, a virtual tour with me, Wendy Fracchia. I'm the operations manager for Morris Murdock Escorted Tours, an LDS travel study. And with us on this recording is Asher Ashkenazi, who is a licensed Israel guide that we have the pleasure of getting to work with when we're in the Holy Lands. Asher, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. First of all, shalom from everybody. I've been working as a guide for the last 35 years, and I had the pleasure of working with the LDS groups for at least 25 years. And hopefully, I'm looking forward to see you all in Israel. You know, hopefully I know, but with the vaccination, somehow it looks more real than before. You know. Israel is a place that everybody should be coming to visit. That's where your roots are. That's where Christianity was born. That's where it started. That's where Jesus spent, if you take a few trips, all his life. So you'll be coming and visiting those sites. And when you do that, you'll be following in the footsteps of Christ. And I think it's going to give you a deeper understanding of your faith of Christianity. So, first of all, please stay safe. Okay. And as I say, I can't wait to see you all in Israel.
Well, we're all excited to come to Israel. I am lucky enough to have visited several times, and I will tell anybody who will listen, my favorite time was my second time, because the first time that you were there, you are in awe and in wonder that you are seeing the sights that you are. The second time you get to go, you get to really feel and appreciate and actually remember what you hear and not just what you feel. So I hope that whether you're considering Israel for your first trip or coming back to Israel, that you'll find something interesting in this presentation. So one of the things I just wanted to review as we start off is a couple of the different itineraries that would be a way that we would visit Israel. On the top left corner is an itinerary that shows a little bit of the area. We've got Jerusalem or Israel in green, Jordan in purple, and Egypt in gold. And as you can see, the proximity of these countries, it is easy to do multiple countries. One of the things I think is always interesting is the size of Israel. Asher, do you want to comment on that?
Well, we're a tiny country. They usually compare us to New Jersey. A tiny country, but still, it's so overwhelming. The land is soaked in history, archaeology. It's unbelievable. You look around and you see the Bible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The itinerary that you see on the right is a standard itinerary that we do on a lot of our tours to Israel, because it does make the most of our time while we're there. This is typically going to be a 10 to 12 day itinerary, depending on how much time we get to spend in each area. The itinerary, now that I look at it, it shows that we fly home at the end of the tour from Jerusalem, which actually should be Tel Aviv. It is a round trip Tel Aviv itinerary, as Jerusalem does not have an international airport. But so as you can see up in north, we're up in the Galilee area. And then in the southern part, we'll go through past the Dead Sea. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, to Masada, then up to Jerusalem. And that's always a highlight at the end of the tour. Some of our itineraries will do a slightly modified itinerary following the life of Christ. And in that case, you would start in Bethlehem and then move north. So that is a little bit different on the different tours. And then, of course, at the bottom, this is a Holy Land cruise we're actually offering in the fall of 2021. with a departure round trip out of Rome, going down to the Greek Isles, and then getting to spend a couple of days in Israel. So if you don't have the time to do a full in-depth tour of Israel, or you just need an introduction, maybe you're ready to go back, introduce somebody else to Israel, it's a wonderful, wonderful way to get to do that. So this is just a picture of the airport in Tel Aviv, and everywhere you can see signs that you're welcome. And then you can hear Asher say,
Welcome home.
welcome home, shalom.
You should not be surprised if I tell you, if I say that to you, welcome home, because that's where home is, I said. That's where your roots are. You're coming back home.
Absolutely. This is another slide I just like to share with people. This is actually in the baggage claim area at the Tel Aviv airport. It is their welcome center. One thing that to point out on the sign is that if you look at the bottom where the information is, you can see that the signs are listed in 3 languages. You've got Arabic, you've got English, and you got Hebrew. And you will see that all throughout Israel. So it's very comforting to always know that you are able to read the signs. So as an American traveler, that is very comforting. So whether or not we're meeting you in Israel, you're meeting up with a transfer, or this is where we're going to meet up with Asher, this is definitely a welcome place and some place for people to be familiar with as we arrive in at the Tel Aviv airport. And then, of course, that is where our journey starts. One area when our schedule will allow us to, we love to have a quick stop in the port town of Jaffa, which is actually a sub-city in Tel Aviv. Here we have, it's beautiful. You can see it's on the Mediterranean coast. And we've got some, of course, Bible references here where we can talk about the story of Jonah and the well. And of course, an important place that we can stop by is the believed door of Simon the Tanner, which is in the book of Acts with Peter. And this is an introduction of kind of the sites that we're going to see along the way. One of the things that you'll see in or hear quite often in Israel is the believed site, because there's only a few places that we can say is actually the site. Asher, do you want to expand on that?
Well, just a few words, about Jaffa. As you said very rightly, it's like the old section of Tel Aviv. They became one city today, and it's known as one of the oldest harbors in the world. As you said, that's where the story of Jonah took place. That's where Jonah embarked, for Nineveh. Later on, he led to Tarsus, the whole story. It's also mentioned in the Old Testament, Jaffa, as the place, as the port where the cedar trees were brought from Lebanon. Those cedar trees which were used in the construction of both the first and the second temple. And as you said, it's a very significant, very important place for Christianity. I would even call this like a turning point uh, after this very significant vision of Peter's. That's where the gospel was open to the Gentiles, which led, to actually the opening of the Gentiles, not only for the Jewish people, but also for the Gentiles. But that's where it started, and later it actually continued in Caesarea. And you very rightly say, you talked about the believed sites. Yes, we use the term the traditional sites, as we have no no strong historical archaeological basis proof to say that this is what happens. So a lot of the time we'll be using the term traditional sites. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. And so we'll kind of go through that as we go through some of the different sites that we'll show you some pictures of. This is just kind of a overlook of Tel Aviv. It is a very metropolitan city. It's a wonderful capital city, and a great way to see how Israel is thriving. We don't typically overnight in Tel Aviv. We normally will go up north to a little town outside Caesarea called Netanya. And then from there, you do get the opportunity to see and stay on the Mediterranean coast. And it's just a nice place to maybe dip your toes in and get started for our tour. So following the itinerary, the circle itinerary that I pointed out at the beginning, one of our first big stops again is going to be Caesarea. This is an amazing site of Roman ruins. King Herod built a palace here, and this amazing city. It was a capital city, and at the time, and it has this wonderful Roman amphitheater that is still used today for different concerts and presentations. And it's a wonderful place to be able to sit down and talk about the significance of the Bible story, as Asher mentioned in here, and the to be able to hear the story the way that it's being told in the amphitheater, and how that works. And it's a fun place, whether we're learning how to dance or we're just appreciating the Roman architecture. This is actually the ruins there at Caesarea, where you can see the footprint of Herod's palace, which you can still see mosaics from the floor. It's amazing to see the moorings in the port, because it was such an important port city, and that's why it was a capital in the time, because of the goods and the things that were going through the area. This is a picture of the Hippodrome, which is there at Caesarea. And I'm going to let Asher talk a little bit about this amazing aqueduct that we still can see today.
Well, first of all, let me start by telling you that Caesarea was actually was given to King Herod the Great, by Caesar Augustus, the Roman emperor. And King Herod built here actually a large city and a large harbor, a large city which included, anything that you'd expect to find with the theaters, amphitheaters, bathhouses, hippodromes, public places, palaces, and of course, he had to make sure there's enough water in this large city. By the way, it took him about 12 years to build this city, and he renamed it, after the Roman Caesar. That's why it's called Caesarea, by the way. This aqueduct brought water, conducted water from the nearest large springs, which are actually at the skirts of Mount Carmel. And they brought them all the way from the north, from Mount Carmel to the city of Caesarea. It's a double aqueduct, by the way, which dates back to, which was built by King Herod. It's a Herodian aqueduct. It's about 6 miles long, and with a very mild gradient. It's partially above ground, partially under the ground, depending on the topography. And you can, unfortunately, a large part of it has been destroyed, but you can still see, fragments of this Herodian aqueduct here and there.
Yes, it's amazing to see the history there, and such a well preserved piece of the aqueduct there. Some of our tours will travel a little further north on the Mediterranean to the city of Haifa. On that cruise itinerary, I pointed out that Haifa was one of the stops, and as you can see, this is modern day Haifa. And it is a industrial port, and it is a place that a cruise will port. some of our land tours do go there. There are some significant sites that are there to be visited that are listed on the different itineraries. One very beautiful place to visit in Haifa is the Baha'i Gardens. The Baha'i is actually a religion, and this is their world headquarters. And as you can see, it's a beautiful tiered garden, and you can follow it all the way down to the port city. So it is a beautiful place if it is a city that you do visit. Typically, leaving out of Caesarea, we start turning inland towards the Galilee, and one of our stops will be at Mount Carmel. And we have a wonderful opportunity to talk about that Bible story and how the priest of Baal were trying to prove that their God was stronger. And it's an amazing place to be able to talk about that Bible story. Again, being able to be in a place where you see the Bible come to life on every hill and mountain and rock. Besides being able to tell this Bible story, this has got a beautiful lookout of the Jezreel Valley. Asher, would you like to make some comments here?
Sure, sure. First of all, it's one of the three highest points on Mount Carmel. And as you said, this is believed to be the place where this very famous confrontation took place between the prophet Elijah and the false prophets of Baal. And that's where Elijah proved that our God, God of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, is the true God. And it is this place actually the headquarters of the Carmelite orders. It's under the custody of the Carmelites. And as you very rightly said, there's a beautiful overlook from where you'll actually be able to see the whole country from one end to the other end, of course, depending on the visibility. You can see the Mediterranean, on one end, and depending on the visibility, you'd be able to see the mountains of Jordan, and the Galilee. Yeah. And you look around, again, another one of those places that you see the Bible come to life.
Absolutely. And hopefully it's a clear day. I've been up there a couple times where we haven't got to have such an amazing view as this. So one of the next stops in this area.
We'll do what we can, Wendy.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. I know you always do. Our next stop is at Megiddo, which is a beautiful site, extremely historic. I love hearing Asher tell the history of this mount. And it is just a place of important history and, of course, future prophecy. Coming up to the top of the hill, we will come through these ruins. And Asher, I'll give you a moment to talk about these layers.
Okay. Well, Megiddo, first of all, it's Armageddon. Armageddon is a corruption of two Hebrew words, Har Megiddo, the mountain of Megiddo. And that's where, by the way, Wendy, you could be a guide in Israel, I wrote a letter of recommendation to the Ministry of Tourism. They should start working as a guide in the next groups.
All right.
Anyway, so that's where, as you said very right, the final battle, the battle of the battles, the battle of Armageddon will take place. And as you get to the very top, you see some very interesting biblical remains. You see remains of biblical gates, stables, and a very, very impressive water system, which dates back to the Israelite period, to King Ahab, by the way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and as you can say, this is a picture. Of course, there's you, it giving us a wonderful explanation of the water system that was used up here for the different time periods, and it's again just a beautiful place to see and be able to talk about this the amazing things of the area. This next little slide's just a little fun to throw in there, just a little bit about what life is like on a tour. A lot of people ask about tour buses, and this is actually one of the smaller buses. We do keep all of our tours to one coach on our trips to the Holy Land, and we feel that this is a very significant and important piece of our tours. So not only are you always able to ask Asher questions, ask your religious tour leader questions, but you're able to bond with the different people in your group. So this is something that you will see on our tours, that there's always just the one coach experience. So
By the way, Wendy,
yeah.
This picture was taken exactly after I grabbed the microphone and told them, "Your attention, please. Your captain speaking."
Yes. Well, and that, and Asher also always loves to sing to us, which is always a wonderful, wonderful treat. So, one of the sites that many of our tours will go to in the Galilee area is Bet Shean, which is an amazing Roman city that you will be able to walk through a live, active archaeological dig. And that is a place that Asher was able to do some of his studying on. This is a very impressive Roman theater again. It's still in use. You can see in the back left corner some of the columns that have either been put back together from the actual ruins, or modern pieces have been put in to rebuild this area. This is Asher, I'm going to let you talk about this picture a little bit, and you can talk just a little other highlights of Bet Shean.
Yeah, sure. First of all, Beit Shan, it means the house of tranquility. It's mentioned in the Old Testament after King Saul, the first king of Israel, and his sons were killed on Mount Gilboa by the Philistines. Then the Philistines actually cut off their heads and they hanged their bodies on the walls of Beit Shan. That's how Beit Shan is mentioned. And as you said, very right, it's a highlight. I think it's certainly, if not the most, one of the most impressive Roman Byzantine ruins in Israel. That's where the largest Roman theater was excavated, was discovered. Until 1960s, that was the only thing actually the visitors were able to see, the theaters. But today, you can actually see the remains of, a very impressive bathhouse, the Roman streets, the fountains, the remains of temples. It's become a highlight. And the Roman theater, by the way, as I say, it's the largest Roman theater, probably enough seats for about 7,000 people. And they also found maybe the most important site in Beit Shan, which is the public latrine, the Roman latrine. And as I said, that's where they found the largest of almost, the largest Roman theater, largest bathhouse, and the largest ancient Roman latrine. Yeah, that's where the nature called the people.
Exactly. And it's very very fun pictures for people to sit on these stones coming out of the wall, and as a demonstration on how the latrine systems worked back then.
By the way, that's an upgraded latrine because the stones are marble stones.
Ah.
Yeah. Very. You must have tried them, no, Wendy? You didn't try them?
I think I tried them. I just didn't know if I necessarily appreciated what I was sitting on. Back to
they might be a little uncomfortable in the winter because those stones might get pretty cold. But in the summer, you feel much better.
Yeah, absolutely. So depending on the time that you decide to take your tour. Going back to our biblical sites, this is a picture of Mount Tabor, one of the believed sites of the Mount of Transfiguration. This is a beautiful place to come and talk about the biblical story of the witness there. And going up to Mount Tabor, I'll let you know what. Let me actually show you this beautiful aerial site of this monastery and church that is up on the top, and the beautiful view that you have down beneath. Again, this was taken on a beautiful day that had wonderful views all the way around. Um, the ride up to Mount Tabor is also something that people will remember. As you can see, going up the hill are the switchbacks that take you up in little taxis, because a motor coach, a tour coach, is not going to make it up this hill. But it is a wonderful sight to be able to go up and to see the church and to enjoy this at this site here. Also, and I believe that picture, Asher, if I was right, was probably taken from Nazareth. Is that
That's right.
okay?
It was probably taken from the Mount Precipice, which we usually visit in our tours.
Thank you. And that will, I'm not sure if I have a picture of that, but this is modern day Nazareth. And it obviously is not, as I'm sure most of you probably have pictured it from reading about Christ's childhood in this little village. It is a very busy city right there in the middle of this picture with the cone shaped uh, top to the church is the Church of Annunciation, which is dedicated to, of course, Mary's visit by the angel with that special announcement. In Nazareth, though, there is a wonderful little place called Nazareth Village, which is set up as a recreation of the childhood home of Jesus and what it would have been like. And it is a wonderful place to visit, to see people dressed in period clothing doing period work. Of course, it is noted that Joseph was a carpenter, but there wasn't a lot of wood back then. Here, there's a picture of a gentleman working on a log, but we've learned that that is also another term for stonemason. And I think in Nazareth, Asher, is there any? You talked about Mount Precipice. Let's talk a little bit about that overlook.
Well, as you all know, that's where Jesus spent his childhood, adulthood, and that's where he was also rejected by his own people living in this very, very tiny village. You know, today Nazareth, as you said, today Nazareth became the largest Israeli Arab town in the Galilee. Unlike back in Christ's time, it was a very insignificant, unimportant, small village. You'll be surprised to hear that the population in Nazareth back in Christ's time was about maybe 200, 250 people living there. Very unimportant, and that's actually where in the synagogue, you know, Christ actually declared, you know, that he's the Messiah, and of course that wasn't appreciated by the people in the synagogue. He was rejected, and they actually led him to a mountain, you know, and they tried to cast him down. And as the Bible says, he actually went through midst of them. And after he was rejected, you know, by the people living in this village, he left Nazareth. He went to the Sea of Galilee, and then Capernaum became his own city.
Yes. So moving on out of Nazareth, we do get up into the Galilee, and one of the first things we see as we come into the to the Galilee area is the Jordan River, and this is a beautiful site that is recognized as one of the traditional sites of Christ's baptism. This is where you will see many people still coming today to do baptisms and to recommit themselves to being Christians, and it's a beautiful site. We also visit on most of our tours the more authentic site of Christ's baptism over near the border of Jordan and Bathbara. But it is a beautiful site, as you can see, a beautiful place that we could talk about the importance of Christ's baptism and what that scene may have looked like. And sometimes we will actually go to both sites at the Jordan River. As Asher mentioned, in this area north of the Sea of Galilee is the town of Capernaum, which is where Christ came to find his disciples, and where it did become the town of Jesus, and where many miracles were performed. This is a wonderful synagogue that dates back to Asher. How far does this date back?
Well, actually, this is one of the, as you were saying at the very beginning, one of the sites that we can certainly say that's where it happens, the authentic site. So we actually have remains of two synagogues here. One synagogue dates back to Christ's time, to the first century, and then this first century synagogue was rebuilt. So what you're looking at is actually the synagogue which was rebuilt at the fourth century, but you can also see the remains of the first century synagogue. So that's like the highlight in Capernaum, which became Jesus' own city. That was his headquarters. That's where he would be leaving for missions and then coming back. That's where he actually ministered, and most of his miracles took place in and near this area. And the second site, which they'll be able to see in Capernaum, is the remains of a house, which is believed to be the house where Peter lived with his mother-in-law. Now, I prefer to use the term traditional for the house because we're not sure if it's, the house, but it's certainly a house which dates back to Christ's time.
It is. It is one of my favorite sites because, as you say, we know this is an actual site that Christ and the apostles were and lived. And I know it will become a favorite stop of yours in this area, as well as the beautiful Mount of Beatitudes. This is right in the same area of Capernaum, and it is a beautiful place to be able to talk about the important sermon that Christ gave there, and to be able to take some beautiful pictures of the valley. This is the picture shows the current church that is there and the inside of that. And it's wonderful to get to see the nuns and the priest in this area, and hearing them worship there. One of the things that's also very special that we get to do here, and you will see at all of these sites that this picture represents, is teaching areas. These are places that you can sit down, so it's not always standing. A lot of people ask how much standing and walking is involved in a tour. So this is a good picture to give you an example of what to expect when we have the opportunity to teach. You can see in the picture on the right, that's Asher there with a headset on. All of our tours do have headsets. So especially going to be important moving forward with social distancing, that you don't have to be directly on top of each other in order to hear the message that is being given. And this is, again, where we will find these corners in all the different areas to be able to sit down and talk about the important stories and things that happened at these sites. So in the same area is Tabgha, where we talk about the miracle of the fishes and the loaves and Peter primacy. These are beautiful places that we get to celebrate Christ's life. The Sea of Galilee is beautiful. Anybody who's from the Utah area, um, I compare the Sea of Galilee and the surrounding area to what most people see up at Bear Lake in as far as the size and the layout. And it's been really interesting. Different times we've been on the lake, and it's been very calm. And then we have been out on the lake where we have seen the waves come up, and you're able to see how these stories that we've read about tempest and how things have happened, um, would happen there in that valley. So we always have the opportunity to go out on one of these old style fishing boats, and be able to talk about the stories of Christ calming the seas, and how they moved from area to area. We get to see different examples of what the old fishing would have been, of casting the nets. And then, of course, this is another fun picture with Asher. We take this opportunity to also do some wonderful dancing here. This is always a fun time to do that, Asher.
It's getting more difficult every year, Wendy.
The dancing or the or the water?
The dancing.
So this is also a fun picture of St. Peter's fish. We always include on our tours a lunch at the Sea of Galilee where you get the opportunity to try St. Peter's fish, and this is how it's served to you. And if you're not a fish eater, there's other options, but this is always something that is fun. And this is a typical lunch that we would have, what it would look like. The food in Israel is amazing. It is so fresh. And a lot of people will ask if it's safe to drink the water. In Israel, it is safe to drink the water. Bottled water is always going to be available, but they have got such wonderful sanitation that eating the food and drinking the water is not something that you necessarily need to be concerned about. Further north from the Galilee is the Caesar Philippi area. And tell Dan and Asher, do you want to give just a moment about this area and what we see up here and talk about?
Yeah. To distinguish from the first Caesarea Maritima, this is Caesarea Philippi, not to be confused, which was the capital of one of the tetrarchies ruled by Philip, one of King Herod's sons. Another very significant place, because that's where actually one of Christ's disciples, Peter, acknowledged, declared for the very first time that he's the Christ, the Son of living God. And that's where Jesus gave him the keys to the kingdom of heaven. And you can actually see some very impressive remains of ancient Roman temples, actually three Roman temples. And that's also where one of the three springs of the Jordan River is, the spring of Banias, the spring of Caesarea Philippi, which is the second largest spring. And you can actually see the spring right there. It, pops up, at the site.
Here, I'll go back to that one. There it is.
Exactly.
So this site, depending on the length of your tour, is one. If you're there for a little bit longer, we love to be able to go up here and visit this site. But in the Galilee, there's so many highlights, and these are just a few. There's a handful that we didn't even get a chance to really visit in this slide. But moving forward, we would now start moving to the lowest place on the earth, at the Dead Sea. This is always a highlight for people to be able to go and swim. This is a wonderful picture of one of our guides, and it is also a place that we go and we pretend that we're Cleopatra, and we cover ourselves in mud, and it is a fun experience to get to do on the different tours. A little messy, but definitely a fun experience. Also in this Dead Sea area is the stop of Qumran, which is where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. There's much significance to this little this little hole that we see in this rock, and being able to find these scrolls that Asher will tell you the significance of being able to find something this old that he can read. Asher, do you want to just a second about these scrolls?
Yeah, well, it's actually considered as the most important archaeological finding of the 20th century. The very first ones of those scrolls were actually discovered in 1947, and they were written by a Jewish sect. They're either known as the Dead Sea sect or the Essenes, and they found here actually scrolls where they wrote their own sectarian ideology, but they also wrote the books of the Old Testament. And that's maybe the amazing thing. Here they found the remains from every single book of the Old Testament except the book of Esther. And as you said, Wendy, it's amazing. Me as an Israeli, I can actually look at those 2,000-year-old scrolls and read and understand in my native tongue. What else can I add to that? Yeah.
Exactly. No. And when we are in Jerusalem, we stop by the Israeli Museum where the scrolls are actually on display to be able to see these scrolls. And there's so much that we are learning from the work on the scrolls. It is a wonderful
Yeah.
miracle that they were uncovered.
And
All
by the way,
Yes.
just one thing, sorry to interrupt, I didn't mention, that's also where they discovered the only one of those biblical scrolls which were found in its entirety, the scroll of Isaiah.
Isaiah.
In Qumran, they actually found the complete scroll of Isaiah. Yeah, sorry.
No, that is it. There's so much to it that trying to fly through on this little presentation. I feel like I'm being disrespectful to all these sites, but um, that is why you go on the tour to learn more and to see more and to hear more. And it's a wonderful experience. One of the other highlights in the Dead Sea area is being able to go up to Masada. And this is a place that actually, the first time I went, it really surprised me the significance and the impact of the site. I would let you, I was going to say, how quickly can you tell the story, Asher, as you would if you were here?
Well, as a guy, it's a challenge for me not to speak about it. To cut it short, because I could speak hours about those sites. But
Yes.
I won't do it. If I do that, you'll be late for breakfast tomorrow morning. So I won't do it. But Masada is certainly a highlight, one of the most visited sites in Israel, and it's actually the very last stronghold which fell into Roman hands during the Great Revolt. We're talking about the Great Revolt of the Jewish people against the Romans, which started at 66 after Christ. And you can actually see remains of palaces, bathhouses, food storage, and
Yes.
the story of Masada really, comes back to life there.
Exactly. Hearing the story, the sad story of the zealots, and it is an amazing site that we know will be another one of your highlights. From the Dead Sea area, we do move into Jerusalem, to the Jerusalem area, and because we're kind of doing this in Christ's life order now, we'll talk about Bethlehem. Bethlehem is actually in the Palestinian area, and we will go here to the Church of the Nativity. This is a church that is ah three active religions are currently inside this church. It is amazing place to go and visit and talk about Christ's birth. I was just looking at this presentation. Unfortunately, there's not a picture to Shepherd's Field, which is a beautiful place that we go and we sing Christmas carols and we talk about the night of Christ's birth. This picture represents the spot in the grotto in the Church of Nativity, where many believe was the site of his birth. It is interesting to go into Bethlehem and see the caves, which is the true representation of the place that Joseph and Mary would have been that night. And of course the star and the shepherds, and it's again just a beautiful place to be able to talk about the story of Christ's birth. Jerusalem, again, trying to do the next few minutes justice with the many sites that we're going to see here. This is a picture of the Dome of the Rock, which sits on top of the Temple Mount, and this is a mosque, a Muslim mosque. No, you cannot go into the mosque any longer. We used to be able to do that many, many years ago, but it is a place that we can still get on top of the Temple Mount and be able to talk about the temple that was there. And it's and the importance of that area. In the old city, you will see the remains of centuries of history and different areas. The picture here is a place that we visit to talk about the celebration of the Last Supper and the ordinance of the sacrament. Um, it is now obviously not as it would have been in Christ's time. Asher, do you want to talk a little bit about this room?
Yes, well, this is the traditional Last Supper room, as you said very rightly. If not here, certainly nearby in the very same area, that's where the first sacrament, the first sacrament was institutionalized. Well, the building dates back to the Christian era, but the amazing thing is, at the very same place, they actually found remains from every single historical period dating back to Christ's time. At the very same place, they actually discovered in the archaeological digs, they discovered and found the remains of the house believed to be Mark's house. On this house, later on, there was a church built, one of the early churches in Jerusalem. Then the Muslim Arabs came and actually built a mosque there. Then the Crusaders came and destroyed the mosque and rebuilt a church. To cut the long story short, what you see actually is the remains from the Crusader church, which,
Yeah,
again, as we said, became the traditional Last Supper room.
exactly. And a wonderful place to be able to talk about the importance of the sacrament and this time that Christ had with his disciples, and hopefully we'll never see it this empty, but it's always a wonderful place that we take an opportunity to sing a sacrament hymn. Um, Throughout Israel, throughout the different sites, being able to sing in different places is always something that brings the spirit and is a highlight for a lot of us on the tour. Um, this is a picture looking at the Church of Agony over to the Gethsemane area. Over there to the left of the church, you will see olive trees that date back over 2,000 years. This is these trees were definitely would have been dating back to Christ's time. And the garden down through that area is always a very, very special, very sacred place, whether we are in a garden setting like this or if we're in Orson Hyde's Park Memorial, which is just south of the BYU Jerusalem Center. but to be able to sit down together and talk about the significance um, of this garden and what happened there for us. It is just a very sacred, very special time to be able to do that and reflect. Um, Looking from this area back towards the old city, we see the Golden Gates. Asher, you want to give us a little history here?
Well, you're looking at the walls and the walls of the old city of Jerusalem, which was built by the Ottoman Turks, dates back to 1500s, and which with 8 gates, 7 open gates, and the only gate which was actually closed, sealed, is the gate that you're looking at, which is traditionally known as the Golden Gate, but it was actually called the Beautiful Gate in the biblical era, and that's the Eastern Gate through which the Messiah will be entering in the second coming.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the different history of the wall and the area and the gates as we go through the old city. Another very significant site that we will go to is the believed palace of Caiaphas, where Jesus would have been brought after he was taken out of the garden. That down below this church are dungeons that have significant reason to believe that this was where Caiaphas's house would have been and where Christ would have been taken. Another one of the important sites that we will see in this area are these steps. Again, this is Asher, one of the places that we can say these stones date back to Christ's time, and these are
Absolutely.
actual pathway that these steps would have gone across the valley, starting in Gethsemane area, down through the valley up to Caiaphas's residence palace where Christ would have been taken. Is I'm correct there, right?
That's right. That's right.
Thank you. Of course, while we're here, we'll talk about Peter and what happened in that area. And it is a very wonderful place to be able to go and talk about the significance. This is a another picture of it's Stephen's Gate, one of the gates of the old city. And we'll talk about get to see the different gates and the significance of each of these gates. Um, this is one of the alleyways into or in the old city. And those churches that we see back there, Asher, is that St.
Well,
Anne's?
yeah, exactly. We have the Church of Saint Anne, then we have the Church of Condemnation, Flagellation. It's actually the very beginning of Via Dolorosa.
Right.
One of the most well-known streets in the Christian world. The Catholic tradition with the 14 stations. It's just the beginning of it.
Right. And I've got
In the
another picture of that one as we're going through. Right there in that area is also where we will visit the pools of Bethesda and talk about Christ healing miracles there. This is a picture again of the different stations of the cross on the Via Dolorosa, and it's just very interesting to watch people walk to each of these different stations and to be able to talk about this Christ last procession from judgment to the cross, that each of these different medallions, as you can see there on the wall, represent different things that happened on the journey to Golgotha. Um,
By the way, when we do the Via Dolorosa, you're actually talking about Pool of Bethesda. Pool of Bethesda is another one of those authentic sites. We can say it's right here one of the pools, one of
Oh,
the water reservoirs, which were built back in Christ's time. And you'll be right there. You'll be able to see a part of this biblical pool of Bethesda, which means the house of mercy, actually. And that was the miracle. The 38-year-old man was healed by Christ.
absolutely. And then and it is amazing to be able to go down and see this area. Um, we will try to end most of our tours talking about, of course, the crucifixion and the resurrection of Christ. That is one of the amazing ways to summarize and to bring the tour full circle. Being able to go to the tomb, being able to go into the tomb and think about the death and the resurrection of our Savior and the importance that is to each one of us. Um, when you are in the garden, again, there's one of these special teaching areas where we get to discuss what we've learned on the tour, what we're feeling. When we have time, we'll share, anybody who wants to share and talk about the importance of it. One of the things we also try to do on each of our tours is attend a sacrament meeting at the BYU Jerusalem Center. As you can see, this beautiful church, this miracle church, it's such an interesting story to see how this school this was created, and the beautiful auditorium that is used as a chapel. This is taken during a sacrament meeting. I probably shouldn't say that. Don't know who took it. But as you can see, the whole back of the wall through those arched windows is the old city. I don't think many people will remember much about what you hear in a sacrament meeting, but you will always remember how you felt while you were here. Um, Another highlight on these tours is getting to go to the Western Wall or the Wailing Wall and be able to go down and watch our brothers worship there and pray there. There's so much to be learned. And Asher, I'll give you a couple of minutes to talk about the importance of this.
Okay, it's actually the holiest place for the Jewish people. First of all, not to confuse, it's not the wall of the temple, but it's actually a fragment of the supporting or retaining wall of the temple. It's about the wailing wall of today is about 1/10 of one of the four retaining walls which supported the Temple Mount on which the temple was built. As you can see now, it's divided into two sections. There's a section where only women are allowed, another section only men are allowed. And you look at this wall, you can actually see the history of Jerusalem while you look at this wall, because you can see stones dating back to the Roman periods. Above it, you see stones dating back to the Roman era, then the Crusaders, then the Muslim Turkish periods, and the modern Israeli. It's not just a wall, but it's a wall with a heart that pounds, a wall with a mouth, a wall, you know, which actually speaks to you, because it's a symbol. It's a symbol of actually 2,000-year-old Jewish prayers, inspirations, and dreams to come back to their homeland. Israel today is a fulfillment of the biblical prophecy. It's a biblical prophecy that was fulfilled. Just imagine the Jewish people, when and if possible, they would try to get as close as to this wall and touch and pray. But today we don't call this wall the waiting wall. We call it the Western Wall, because we're not waiting anymore. We're back home. We're rebuilding. Jerusalem.
Absolutely. And it is always a favorite thing to do. And when we are lucky and we are able to be in Jerusalem on a Friday evening, it's wonderful to be able to go there and see the Jews celebrate the beginning of the Sabbath and the celebration that is done there. And then, of course, if we're lucky to be there on Bar Mitzvah days, is a whole completely different fun celebration to watch, which is what's happening in this picture. And as Asher mentioned, there is a separate section for women, and they get to watch over the wall and see as their children and family member enter this important period of their life. It's wonderful to see the celebrations at the
It's a
wall.
very common place for celebration of bar mitzvah, by the way. When the Jewish boy reaches 13, they celebrate the bar mitzvah, and that's where many families will come, to rejoice and to celebrate their son's bar mitzvah right here. And I didn't mention, I'm sure you're all familiar with the tradition of writing, a prayer, a blessing,
Yeah,
notes, and then stick them in between the stones. You'll have the opportunity to do it, to do it also when you come here.
absolutely. This picture is just an overview showing the Temple Mount there, of course, the main part of the picture with the Dome of the Rock. But if you look at the bottom, you will see the proximity of the Western Wall down there that Asher was talking about, with the large men's section. And then right there, you'll see just like the little bit of separation, which is the area that the women are at. And then you can also see just also to the right of that, the ramp, which is constructed to go from this courtyard up to the Temple Mount. So a lot of people talk about the transition up to the Temple Mount. So this is a wonderful aerial view of this area. Um, this last couple of pictures here is just a little bit about walking through the old city of Jerusalem, which is honestly one of my most favorite places. You feel so comfortable going through there, and it's so easy to imagine what it would have been like walking through there when Christ and the disciples were there. Shopping in the bazaars is always a wonderful, fun highlight as well. We tried to give you time to do that along the way to bring home some fun souvenirs. We tried to crunch so much into this short time with you, and went longer than expected. We hope that you enjoyed some of these sites. We have so many different directors who take our different tours, whether they are BYU professors or different authors or educational um, people who can really bring this experience to life for you, as well as wonderful guides like Asher. We love having the opportunity to bring the Israeli story to life and the Jewish story to life, and be able to feel our brothers and sisters over there. And we're grateful that you took this time to watch this presentation. We hope that you will consider joining one of our future tours. And as we talked at the beginning, with the option of adding either Jordan or Egypt. Asher, because you've been invaluable in this recording, is there any last invitation to visit that you would like to leave with us?
Well, first of all, I'm looking forward to seeing you all in Israel. As I said, it's a must. You have to come. It's a place you have to come to see. That's and the visit of Israel will certainly add a fourth dimension, to your understanding of your roots and Christianity. So I can't wait to see you all. Stay safe, and till we meet again, shalom, everybody. It was pleasure being with you, my dear friend Wendy, and I'm looking forward to see you too in Israel. Stay safe, my friends.
Thank you. Shalom, Asher. We
Shalom,
appreciate
shalom.
you. Thank you again. And thank you, everybody, for spending this time with us.